Hey guys, it's Mike here, and in this video, I want to talk about something that everyone seems to completely forget about the Cell Saga, or at least the overwhelming majority of people that have commented on my channel over the years. I have literally gotten hundreds, if not thousands, of comments about this very exact thing, which for me, it's kind of like, I don't understand how people don't remember this, whether it's selective memory or whether it is just the fact that they only ever watch certain sections of the story and they skip over other ones. But this is something that ties directly into, surprise me talking about it, the Cell Saga and the main villain of the Cell Saga, as well as the initial main villain of the arc with regard to Dr. Gero and Cell, and a major misconception regarding what Dr. Gero actually knew and how Cell got certain cells from certain characters. Because so many people, especially ever since I came out with a particular video many years ago, have constantly told me that Dr. Gero doesn't know about this, but shouldn't he know about this? And the list just goes on and on and on. So I'm going to get directly into that. I'm going to dispel this misconception, and I am going to, get old school with you guys. But before I begin, I wanted to let you guys know that my new book, The Children of Aman, Nemesis of the Absence, is now available on Amazon in a physical and digital format. So this is a story of an immortal family who has been locked in a generational battle against the embodiment of nothingness known as the Absence. And book one, Nemesis of the Absence, focuses on the character of Seraph, who is a speaker who wields mystical powers known as the fundamental forces of creation in order to do battle against evil. However, he's doing so in the name of vengeance. And so, along the way, he joins a band of thieves, and there's action adventure and cool powers, romance, that much more. I think you guys will really enjoy it. I've been working on this as a passion project for many years, and you can get your own copy down below in the description and the pinned comment. But with that being said, let's talk about something with regard to, again, the Cell Saga. As you can see, we're going to get into the particular scene that kind of kicks off this misconception right here in Toriyama's manga. Because when Dr. Gero, as Android 20, first shows up with his cohort, Android 19, who was based on a doll, kind of like, Jigsaw with, the Billy doll. Well, guess what happens? When he shows up, he is explaining to everybody exactly how he knows about all of them in the first place. And so, what does he say? Well, let's get directly into his dialogue after Goku asks him, so I can tell you verbatim in order for us to make sure there was no inconsistencies whatsoever here. Because, what does he say? You see, Son Goku, you have been kept under surveillance for quite some time by means of a micro-miniature insect-like spell drone, says Dr. Gero in the Japanese, Gero in the English, and I like to, be the middleman and bridge those two connections while annoying both sides by calling him Dr. Gero. It was present for your matches at the Tenkaichi Budokai, as well as for your battles with Piccolo and Vegeta. This is very important because I'll get into that shortly. Yes, that's right. Even after the fall of the Red Ribbon Army so many years ago, you have been the subject of continuous research. Research conducted to discern how best to defeat you, Son Goku. What type of artificial human it would take to prevail. And so we get into that a little bit more. And so he says, did you guys spy on the battle on planet Namek as well? And so Gero 20 says, there was no need to follow you there. By then, we had a total grasp of your power and technique leading up to and including your fight with Vegeta. Any improvements made by your strength at this junction would be sufficiently offset by your age, rendering further large-scale leaps in strength an impossibility. So at this point, of course, we go on to see that Goku's saying you didn't include one important thing, and as a result, he goes Super Saiyan, which Gero didn't know anything about because nobody had mentioned at the time when he was on Earth. And it goes so far beyond, even further beyond, but not Super Saiyan 3 yet, that it is exceeding the figures and the ranges that they had calculated for him. However, of course, they still would be able to overcome, as they said, because of the fact that, well, they could, well, guess what? They could absorb energy. However, getting into another video I did a while back talking about how did Dr. Gero actually make characters that were able to, androids, Jinzo Ningen, killing machines, who would be able to fight against and destroy Freeza and Super Saiyans and stuff, and how they can't believe that such a thing would even be possible. Remember when Goku was on Earth, battling against Vegeta, battling against everybody like that, Goku got a gigantic leap in power at that point, training with King Kai. Not just that, but additionally, he had the Kaioken, which was another multiplier. But even further beyond that, Dr. Gero was a genetic engineer. He had been sampling Goku's cells as well as the cells of Vegeta, so he knew by looking into them that Goku had, well, Zenkais, that Goku had extreme potential, that Goku could keep getting stronger and stronger and scaling up to his opponents. He saw Goku as an Ozaru at one point, and he also saw Vegeta become one, becoming a 10 times increase, with the fact that he became a giant King Kong, which I always kind of thought was a little kind of too little in some ways, because it's like you become that gigantic and you're only 10 times stronger. Whatever, a static multiplier for becoming Donkey Kong is a little weird anyway. But either way, the fact is that with regard to that, he was able to extrapolate a lot. And then for all he knew, Goku could become a controlled Ozaru with Kaioken on top of that. So, you take that and you extrapolate it with the genes and everything to its most extreme capabilities. However, again, going back, this is where the big misconception begins, because people are like, well, Dr. Gero specifically said that he did not follow anything after Namek, and yet he made androids like 17, 18 who are stronger than Super Saiyans. But wait a second, because there was a massive battle that happened on Earth involving characters like Trunks, Toronkasu, Mirai Toronkasu, or future Trunks, where, guess what? The two most powerful, normal, developing beings in the universe, Freeza and his father, showed up on Earth, and so did a Super Saiyan who proceeded to slice and dice them, chop them up, and blast them into oblivion. And Dr. Gero was completely unaware of this. I mean, just look at his reaction again when Goku becomes a Super Saiyan. He is shocked that such a thing exists. Even further beyond that, what happens? Later on, when Trunks shows back up, what does he say? A new one just showed up. Who is he? I don't have any data on him. So again, a lot of people are like, well, Dr. Gero must have known about them and everything like that, because after all, how would he have been able to give Cell, his creation, the cells of King Cold and Frieza, if he, well, wasn't paying attention, if he actually wasn't studying everything? So he must have known, or they must not have the cells of King Cool and Frieza. So again, gigantic misconception, so many comments over and over and over. A lot of people who pay attention to the show, and trust me guys, like whenever I do a video like this, there's always people who are like, well, this is obvious, why would you do a video? It should have been 30 seconds long. This isn't for you. Obviously, if you actually know the story and paid attention and go back and rewatch and reread the manga, it's for everyone else who doesn't do any of that and doesn't remember anything and still thinks that, when I do a video like this, it's wrong. So how is this the case? Well, in the line of dialogue, in the entire conversation that none of these commenters ever remember, this is explained. Because people always remember, oh, I didn't keep track of anything on Namek because I wasn't watching you guys. And then, well, then there's this. You see, in his very first encounter, when Cell arrives and he fights against Piccolo, well, he goes on to be tricked by Piccolo into thinking that he has him beaten. He could just eat him and do whatever he wants at this point, drink him up, like his milkshake from There Will Be Blood. And what does he say? Piccolo asked him, well, who exactly are you? What are you? Where'd you come from? How do you know about all this? Blah, blah, blah. Cell explains that he is also a Jinzo Ningen, a biological one, that he was born of the computer in Dr. Gero's lab. This is what everyone forgets. Once upon a time, like this is a fairy tale, definitely a dark one, like Grimm's fairy tales maybe, Dr. Gero collected cells from the greatest fighters and began conducting research on artificial humans who could be synthesized from those cells. Due to the sheer amount of time required for this task, he gave up on it midway through, leaving his computer behind to continue his work. And then we see all this happening. During the Saiyan Saga, the fight against Vegeta, they take the cells of everybody at that point in time. Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo. I guess they don't take Gohan's. It's never said, but I have a whole video about who cells are taken from, and essentially how there are other people left in other life forms that could have been included. It's a little bit ambiguous at that point in time. But as we see, they also got the cells of King Cold and Freeza. So those are all these beings that kind of congealed and coalesced into making the most powerful being in the universe. And Dr. Gero, even after he's dead, look at this, what happens. Cell points out that even now, there are still the spy bots working autonomously, as you can see right here, and Piccolo blows one of them up. The computer is acting completely of its own volition, because just like 19, just like 16, and some of the other androids that he made over time, the computer has its own sort of artificial intelligence. It is capable of going into action, essentially, in terms of doing its own thing and gathering the data for Cell, everything like that. I actually did a whole video breaking down artificial intelligence and that much more with Blackenfist on my channel. It's one of my favorite videos ever, called Why Didn't the Androids Obey Dr. Gero? It's a deep dive into what I just mentioned with artificial intelligence, but also things such as, well, we have, the influences of the androids, different motivations for them, how Toriyama based them off of things ranging from like Android 8 with Frankenstein, other characters along the way. And there's so much that we go into that, a title and a thumbnail can never really sum up. And that's kind of a lot of my videos. So, again, a lot of times people are like, oh, these videos could be obvious, but it's like, well, maybe if you actually click on it, then you get to start to realize that there's a lot more than I could just convey in a very limited title. If I really titled it the way I wanted to, it would be called, why didn't the androids obey Dr. Gero? How does artificial intelligence work in Dragon Ball Z? What are the influences? Blah, blah, blah. And it would never fit. And then it would be cut off after 3 words with like a few dots and whatever, because of how YouTube works. So that being said, this is something that basically everyone always forgets. They're always like, well, Dr. Gero said he didn't pay attention to everything after Namek, and that's why he was surprised by Super Saiyan. But then again, there was the fight with a Super Saiyan and Frieza and his father on Earth, so he must have paid attention. Or of course, it's like, well, it wouldn't make any sense for Cell to have the cells of King Cold and Frieza, even though he literally says in his very first scene. So this goes on to show you that people probably just watch the scene where Cell shows up in Ginger Town, and then they just like skip over that, and they either don't watch those episodes whenever they're watching their Orange Bricks, or, probably on the internet and clips and, shorts where people put completely unfitting music like rap and R&B and stuff in the background, and techno and stuff that never fits in there. And, they skip over important things. And so they have no idea about any of it, whether it be people my age who watch the show back on Toonami and WB and stuff like that, or people nowadays who just, skip over episodes or only watch clips on the internet. So this is something I've been getting hundreds, maybe thousands of times over the years. Wanted to dispel it, wanted to put it to rest. It is right there in the anime and in the manga that King Cold and Frieza cells were used. They were gathered by Dr. Gero's computer completely without his input. But with that being said, it is a question of, well, if his lifespan was limited, but he became a robot at that point in time, an android with a brain in it, was it still limited or unlimited? I'm going to do another video about that very soon that you guys could check out. Again, if you're interested, check out my new book, The Children of Amon, Nemesis of the Absence, down below in the description, and of course the pinned comment. I highly recommend it if you like all of the things I mentioned and more. I think you'll enjoy it. It goes directly supporting me. I made it self-published, written, edited. I did the cover art myself. So highly recommend checking out my own franchise starting right here. With that being said, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to stick around because there's a lot more to come. in the future. Trunks! Future Trunks.
And you better subscribe!